Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you've had a great Monday, a great start to your week. There's a few things to break down here. Today, there's been some changes in kind of the mid to long range. Really talking about when we get into Christmas week, there's some changes. There looks like a brief opportunity for a storm system, maybe two, along the eastern U.S. for Christmas week, especially earlier in the week, and maybe even this weekend into early next week. Um, you know, Certain models are showing a major winter storm across the eastern U.S., mainly speaking for the Northeast. But it looks like some active weather could really kick started here into this weekend, into next week, when everybody's really traveling and getting home for the holidays and all that. And it looks like it could potentially get a little bit colder next week. I'm not talking about any kind of Arctic outbreak, but in the midst of what is a pretty much a warmer than average pattern setting up later this week, especially for the South. We may get a little chillier just in time for the holidays, but we're going to take a look going forward also, just basically the last week of December, and briefly talk about what the pattern potentially looks like, as there is solid hints that we're really going to make a pattern change towards month's end. I don't think we're going to roast the entire month of December. I really don't. I think when we here in the next week or so, we're going to get a little bit more seasonable temperatures and a little bit colder than average. I do want to say, sorry about my low energy. I am extremely tired. I'm wore out. I don't know why Monday's kicked my butt today, but nothing's happened negatively. I'm just very, very tired today. But if you guys have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. I'm on the mission to get to 10K by the end of the year, and I have a lot of ground to make up if that's going to happen. But anyways, that's not a huge deal. But like the video if you like it. I appreciate y'all's amazing support, and let's get going here. I make videos every single day, guys, so I keep y'all updated even when the weather's kind of slow. Thoughts and prayers continue for the Quad States tornado situation as the death toll continues to go up, and there's still a lot of people missing, and the videos continue to just look awful coming out of that area. So thoughts and prayers continue to go out for you guys affected, and I hope that y'all's recovery process continues. But let's get going. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the GFS, the European, and even take a look at the Canadian model and see the pieces of energy flying around as we get into this weekend and the next week. And here we go. We're getting into Friday. We see a piece of energy setting up here. The pattern kind of goes zonal to a degree, and you have a piece of energy that sets up with this stalled cold front setting up right here. Low pressure develops, and you have kind of overrunning going on here. And what happens here is you have a little bit of some snow that really pops off here in the interior areas of the Northeast, gets awfully close to places like Boston. In fact, this first system, almost every model is liking Boston to get some snow with this first system this weekend, or at least a rain snow mix. But we'll continue to watch this because there's two systems. And then the GFS consistently showed this storm for about 2 or 3, maybe even 4 days now, and it's consistently showing a CAD setup. Now I'm not talking about a deep CAD where we have frozen precipitation showing up all the way into South Carolina. In fact, the 06Z run, 2 runs prior to this, actually showed that, but it's kind of came back to a little bit reality. But in situation CAD setting up here, cold air damming just east of the Appalachian Mountains, setting up at Virginia. So a little bit of ice onset. This turns into a big time coastal storm. Therefore, what happens here is you have a classic nor'easter with a strengthening system, pulling in an ample amount of moisture into the Northeast, and you have an all-out nor'eastern for portions of southern New England, including Boston, as you're getting into early to mid part of next week. I know. But going forward here, this is the system that not all the other models agree on. So we get past that, and we're getting into the European model and getting into this weekend. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Getting into this weekend shows a very similar thing as the GFS does. It shows basically the jet stream kind of digging into here, and a low pressure shooting up across and cutting across the Ohio Valley. And this brings a nice shot of snow for areas like Boston. Boston's right on that rain snow line, but this would bring a very snowy second half of the weekend for areas like Boston, and definitely points north and gets off close to New York City. This brings a shot of cool air into the eastern U.S. And then you look for that second storm that the GFS is showing, and it's not really showing it. It's down here, but it's suppressed a little bit. A deeper shot of cold air keeps the storm a little bit further south and doesn't even ride up the eastern coast at all. You look at the GFS as far as snowfall accumulations. Now, this is going to be well overdone because the GFS on tropical dippets tends to show ice as snow, but that's not the case. So when you're looking here that it's not 7, 8, 9 inches of snow showing up in Virginia, that is not the case. This is probably just a little bit of ice, but up here is legitimately snow. So this would show a major, not crazy major, but a significant snow event to crank up your holiday week here into the Northeast. So that would be a pretty significant storm. But if you look at the European only likes that first system, but brings a nice holiday snow for areas like Boston, Massachusetts, and then just the interior Northeast here. You look at the Canadian model. I meant to maybe move this graphic a little bit further in the beginning of this video. The Canadian, we don't pay attention to this much, but it is model guidance at this range. Shows that first system much warmer, which is saying something considering the fact that the Canadian is a cold biased model. It keeps it all rain in Boston. And then that second system gets close, but a lot of heavier moisture does not really get into the interior Northeast or anything like that. And then there's another nasty little coastal low showing up here. So as far as the EPS ensembles through Christmas, a decent chance for a little bit of snow for the Northeast, but it's not really picking up on the storm much. You look at the basically the GFS through this holiday storm event potential, and it really doesn't follow the GFS much at all. In fact, it's definitely not near as bullish as the GFS, the operational run. So that's why you gotta take this with a grain of salt and see who wins. Who wins the battle with the European and GFS with that second storm? I think that first storm definitely is going to happen. But what we got going on here, we've got a big-time ridge setting up over the central and eastern U.S. We've been talking about this for the last couple of days. In the middle of this pattern, cold front tries to dip through. A little bit of cooler air gets in. And, we have a brief opportunity for some wintry weather in the Northeast in between these patterns. At the same time, come on, work with me, panels. At the same time, you have some blocking showing up in Greenland. You have a nice Alaskan ridge building here. So this is what you call a negative NAO. It's blocking over Greenland. A lot of people will talk about this, but this means favorable. It means that you can get a shot of cooler air into the eastern U.S. Depending on what kind of negative NAO you have, what kind of directional negative NAO you have, depends on if you can get that cool shot into the eastern U.S. But one thing, when you have a negative NAO, a lot of times you set up a stormy pattern for the eastern U.S., and that looks to be the case next week with that blocking up here. And of course, when you have this happen, it allows for Canadian air to spill into Canada. Now, what you also need is a positive PNA, which is basically a ridge in the west, which allows this cold air to scoot southeast. And you need all these players to work here. But instead, you kind of get some ridging, but don't pay too much attention to this. What you have is you have basically, and I think I got my negative a couple seconds ago. I meant a positive PNA. A negative PNA is basically when you had that troughing in the west. And if I'm getting my positive and negative mixed up, please forgive me. But what I'm basically saying is when you have troughing, when you have all the cold air to the west, normally you have some ridging in the east. So you need this cold air to eventually bleed east if you want some kind of wintry weather across the eastern U.S. to cap off 2021. And I think there's going to be some opportunities coming up in December. I really do, at the end of December. But we'll have to watch. There's a lot of buzz going on about this pattern change showing up. But when you can get these two players on the field, these blocking up here, you can get, a big time Arctic push of air to dip down south. Where it dips, it's always going to be a question mark. But that's all I got, guys. There's not a whole ton to really bite down on here, but we're watching a lot of players on the field. We're seeing how this pattern is going to evolve as we get into Christmas week. I feel like we should know more, but we just don't as far as Christmas week. But y'all have a great night. That's all I got. God bless all y'all, and I hope y'all have a great Tuesday.